Oh, ok, bien. Vamos a empezar. We're going to start. Hola, buenos días. ¿Cómo están todos?
Muy bien, bien.
¿Están bien? ¿Están bien?
¿Está bien?
Ok.
Sí.
Fantástico. All right. So what I've got on tap for today, and feel free to interrupt anytime today with anything else that comes up. I want to review our little items for homework because we had this, week off in between, which was kind of disjointed. It's always is. I want to review any questions you might have had on homework. I want to go over why we use accent marks and to kind of walk you through examples to think about, does that word need an accent mark or not? Because I hear a word and I know it's got an accent mark, even when I don't see it written, but you guys might not. And why would you? And in one sense, no importa, it doesn't matter. But in another sense, it kind of clears up some things for people to go through this thing of accent marks, because a lot of people go through many classes, sometimes for years, saying, wonder why that's got an accent mark. And then when they find out why, it's like, oh, that's why. And then this little...
just say, I can't imagine looking at a word and starting to think, let's see, is it ending with a vowel or an S? And should it be on the second or the last or the fourth from last?
Yeah. Well, that's why I told you all those terms like aguda and esdrújula and sobre esdrújula. For you guys, that doesn't matter. That matters for people who are linguists. Okay, so those terms don't matter, but actually, I would say about 75% of that video is very good about explaining things. I'm sure you're still going to have questions. Say, it's normal. It's normal. And that's normal. Okay. But it does help, because a lot of times when you hear that, you automatically know, oh, it's that word. So it helps you to clear up the ways people communicate, because in some instances, there'll be words that are spelled exactly alike, but one's got an accent mark and one doesn't. And it might not be a big deal, but it might be a big deal. And it helps you to cue in right away. Oh, it's that word. It means that. So hopefully we'll clear up those. We'll do some practice with that, but practice all together, because it's not really the kind of thing I can send you out into small groups to do. Because you have to hear the words spoken to know if that accent mark thing is a thing or not. Okay. So review of homework, accent marks, and por empara was the next topic that some people wanted to start. And we're going to start por empara, but por empara takes a long time and a lot of practice and a lot of examples. So muchos ejemplos, lots and lots of examples is what we're going to have today.
Marilyn?
Sí.
I kind of have a question, because I was wondering if, there's certain words that need a accent mark, or you're going to be taken wrong in the wrong way. Is that what you're want to go over? And
yes.
Okay.
Right. And that is, that's one of the things. See, Liza, that's one of the things we're absolutely going to take a look at. Oh, who's trying to come? I got a bogus call coming in. Okay. 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 Bien. And let's go on. Oh, quick item that today starts signups, just so people are reminded, because we have that week off. Sign up for spring courses starts today online. And if you want to sign up for the more advanced class, that is the Wednesday class, but it will be called not step 2. It will be called Spanish 1 continuing, but it will say Wednesday morning, not Wednesday night, unless you want a night class. And some people definitely don't want a night class. So there are going to be 2 signups if you want the more advanced one. And that means that we sometimes use some past tense. That's what it means. pretty much, but it'll say Spanish 1 continuing. And there's a Wednesday morning, which is the new one they're opening up for me, and the Wednesday night, which is an old existing group. So if that's something you're interested in doing, if you want to stay with this group, if you feel like, oh my God, I cannot deal with past tense, that is perfectly fine too. So stay in this one. If you feel like I am pushed to my limit with what we're doing together here, then just stay in this Monday morning class. No problem. No problem. Okay.
Hey, Marilyn,
Sí.
hey, pregunta, will we eventually get to past tense in this class? At what point?
I would say, are we going to get to past tense? Not this session. I don't even think spring, because there are enough other things that you may hear a few things here and there, and I'll explain that's what it is when you hear it.
Mhm.
But I try to stay away from that with this particular course, except for little blips here and there, but not a serious study. Yeah.
Okay,
What
but
is this one
eventually we'll get there. Eventually, or will it become
Eventually, you'll probably have some. Yeah. But I always have some. I have many people with different abilities in this class. I have some who know a little past tense. I have some who know nothing at all. I have some people who are coming straight out of the beginner course. So I need to keep it in a safer, easier umbrella, but definitely going over new topics all the time. So, but
Okay, Marilyn, can I ask you a question? Then
Sí,
we should,
claro.
then if I want to stay in the same course, it would be beginner Spanish step 2.
It'll be step 2, right? If you
On
want to stay in
Monday.
the same level, it's Monday class, same as always. Yeah, it's
Okay.
this class. It's the one that's called step 2. It's
Okay.
Monday morning, right? If you
Okay.
want the slightly harder stuff, then we've got Wednesday morning. It'll have a different title. It won't be called step 2. It's called Spanish 1 continuing. Okay. Okay. Bien. And any other questions, feel free to always send those my way, even privately or in the chat box or wherever. Okay. Como prometido, as promised, let's do a quick review of this homework reading, just real quick. I want to point out just a couple of things, and I'm going to pull up my notes so I remember what those things are. Otherwise, I will forget. Okay. Destinos rurales con niños, rural destinations with kids. Yeah, so it's actually, this is not the superest easy reading, but it's not super hard either. It's kind of in the middle, which is great. There'll be a few words I want to point out. One of them being that, okay, let's take a look here. Sin prisa. Sin is the opposite of con, right? Con is with, so sin is without. Sin prisa just means without a rush, with no hurry. Okay, so we have a series of sin phrases, yeah? Sin might be combined with a noun. Sin might be combined with an infinitive, but it has to be an infinitive, not a conjugated verb if you do that. Can you imagine a day in your life without noise, sin ruido, without technology, sin tecnología? Una palabra con esto, sí, con el diéresis, with our little accent mark. Y sin prisa, and with no rush, with no hurry, okay? Esto es posible. This is our use of esto to talk about a concept. And the concept is a totally laid back day. So we refer to, esto refers to the abstract idea of a totally laid back day, which isn't like a specific thing that needs gender. So that word esto, even though it ends in an o, and you think, oh, masculine, it really isn't. It's one of the few neuter neutral phrases. It refers to an idea. And the idea is, a laid back kind of day you spend together. And that's an abstract idea. So we have the abstract, general, neuter word, no gender with it of esto. Esto es posible. This is possible. Hoy en día is a great chunk of 3 words that hang together. Hoy en día means nowadays. Today in day, hoy en día is a phrase that means nowadays or these days. These days, calm, laid back places exist. Tranquilos is one of those words that tells us calm, relaxed, not rushed. Lejos de la ciudad, far from the city. Para disfrutar con niños. Disfrutar is a kind of a useful verb. And that's one of the verbs I wanted to pause to point out. Disfrutar is enjoy. It's not like divertirse. It's kind of like divertirse, but disfrutar is to enjoy, to have fun with. Disfrutar. Okay. Si te gusta la mañana, if you like more, si te gusta la montaña, if you like the mountains. In Huesca, and that's just a city name. Okay, that's why it's capitalized. Hay pueblos, there are towns. So there's one of our uses of hay. Para visitar con la familia, to visit with family. And notice how we are using para for later on, in order to, to enjoy with kids, to visit with family. Puedes reservar una casa rural. You can rent or reserve. You can book. You can reserve a rural house. Y pasar unos días maravillosos and spend some marvelous days. And now we've got disfrutar, but conjugated. Kids enjoy. Además is just a connector word. It says besides, so it's adding more information. Además is a flag saying I'm going to add more info. Besides, in addition. Okay. Kids enjoy. Los niños disfrutan. Kids enjoy themselves in these places. Porque juegan al aire libre, because they play outdoors. They play in the open air. Aire libre, or al aire libre, in this case, is free air, which means open air, which means outdoors in open door spaces. Al aire libre is a great chunk of words to just memorize. Al aire libre means outdoors in the open air. Okay. Y hacen actividades nuevas and do new activities. Por ejemplo, for example, here's a great use of por. Por ejemplo is a chunk that's always that. And this is one of those phrases that you hear Spanish speakers use a lot when they want to say something general and then give a specific. They'll introduce the specifics with por ejemplo, for example. Por here would translate as for example. Yeah, for. But por ejemplo is always por ejemplo. You don't need to know a reason why it's por instead of para. You just know that you never hear somebody say para ejemplo. Therefore, it sounds weird. Yeah. Por ejemplo is always how those 2 chunks of words hang together. For example, they can visit a working farm. These are farms. Yeah, that little term, granjas escuela. Farms school. What the heck is that? Yeah, a farm where people go to learn about animals, farm animals, growing crops. Okay, that's all that is. Y aprender muchas cosas interesantes and learn lots of interesting things sobre los animales y los cultivos, about animals and cultivos, crops that are cultivated. Los cultivos just means crops that we grow for food purposes. Okay. Y una pregunta. prefieres ir a la playa en un entorno rural. You prefer to go to the beach in a rural setting. Entonces debes ir a Galicia o Asturias. They're talking about two places in Spain. Galicia is the far northwest corner of Spain, and Asturias is a northern strip of land. So they're referencing what would be like for us states or counties. Okay. Estos destinos son ideales. These destinations are ideal para el verano, for summer. We're using para. Porque no hace demasiado calor, because it's not too hot. Demasiado is too, T-O-O. And hace is a verb that we often pair up in weather phrases. Hace appears a lot in weather phrases. Hace frío, hace calor, hace fresco, hace buen tiempo, it's good weather. Hace mal tiempo, it's bad weather. Hace literally, it makes, it does. Yeah, the weather makes a certain condition. Yeah. Okay. También, also, this is the other two, T-O-O. But here we would say also in English. Also, kids can breathe clean air. And clean air is usually is expressed as aire puro. Aire puro. Kids can breathe clean air and swim in the sea. Mar is sea. En plena naturaleza. Here is a great word for you to put in your hip pocket. Plena. Or it might be a masculine form, pleno, depending. Here we're using it with naturaleza, so it goes into a feminine form. Plena means right in the middle of. Right in the middle of. That's plena or pleno. Pleno naturaleza means right in the middle of the great outdoors, nature. Or in English, sometimes we would say right smack in the middle. Yeah, that's plena. So you'll also hear plena in a phrase like en plena calle. And that means right in the middle of the street. Okay. Plena means right buried in the middle of. Besides, in addition, besides, in little towns, no hay tráfico, there's no traffic. And therefore, they are safe places. Sitio means place. Lugar means place. They are synonyms, yeah? But notice we've got a por eso. Por eso is the phrase therefore. Literally, por eso is for that reason. Because of that reason, por eso. But we would probably say in English, therefore. Por eso is a chunk you should learn together, and por ejemplo is a chunk you should learn together. Those phrases, por eso and por ejemplo, are always por. Always. They just are. You shouldn't have to think too hard about them. Therefore, they are safe places para jugar, to play. En la calle tranquilamente, to play in the street, calmly, safely. Yeah. Small towns in Spain are stupendous, are great, are awesome. Para pasar un verano increíble, to spend a great, fabulous, incredible summer with kids. So that's our little our little reading prompt. See? Bien?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vale. Bueno. Okay. I just wanted to show you some new words that are important in there, and some chunks that are kind of precursors of our por and para lesson. Okay. A ver. And next, I want to see if you've got any questions on our little Argentine gal who had this great little thing about glamping. If you've never heard the term glamping, it's glamour camping. It means camping, but without having to set up the tent yourself, without having to stick the poles in the ground. And yeah, so glamping means there's a nice tent already set up for you with furniture in it, and you don't have to work on it very hard. And a lot of you, I did get some emails back on, wow, the way she says, silla. She is very much from Buenos Aires. You can tell from that way she pronounces silla. But just know that would, if you were listening to somebody from Mississippi or born and grown up in Texas, you might notice a different accent. And this is just a different accent. Okay. But she had some really nice basic things in there that talked about her glamping experience. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any question about that? No? And, okay. Bien. Yay. Adelante. Moving on. Ooh, let's talk about the sometimes thorny, but not really hard topic of accent marks. Okay. And who the heck cares? And by the way, we call them accent marks, but technically we shouldn't use the term acento. They are tildes. Tildes is any kind of a little squiggle mark. Okay, here's what you need to know about tildes. Some people, by the way, call them diéresis, but some people call only the double dot thing a diéresis. So, depends.
One second.
Yeah. So, okay. Any little squiggle mark that goes over a letter in a word is called in Spanish in general sense a tilde. Okay, and they are written accent marks. So here is the good thing to know. Strictly speaking, it kind of in some ways doesn't matter because they're written marks. So you see them, you read them, I hear them, people who are native speakers hear them, but they are written. They are not part of spoken language. Well, they kind of are keyed in actually because they're tied into how we pronounce the words. Okay, what matters about tildes is that they indicate which syllable in a word gets greater stress. Okay. And they signal when they're written down, they signal that a word, the way the word is pronounced, tilde signal that the way we pronounce this word breaks the customary rule of stress. A tilde means a word is a rule breaker from the stress rules. Okay. So when you get a word like teléfono needs an accent mark. Árbol needs an accent mark. Colibrí. Oh, there's our word for I have a picture in my head of what a colibrí is. Hummingbird. I couldn't think of the English word. Colibrí. Hummingbird. Or even in verbs like cómpramelo. Cómpramelo means buy it for me. The melo at the end is the it for me. The lo is the it, the me is for me. And cómpramelo makes a command and order, hey, buy it for me. Okay. So sometimes verbs get accent marks and sometimes things, nouns, and just any old word, they get accent marks. An important thing to know is this bit here, and you're doing enough now that it's probably important to know. Oh, you know what? That's a little too much blue. These two words, mandó and mando, are spelled exactly alike. But when I hear somebody say mando and somebody else say mando, they are two completely different things, even though they come from the same verb. So here is part of that question that we had earlier. Wait a minute, here are two words, they're spelled exactly alike, but one's got an accent mark and one doesn't. And mando, when I hear it, I automatically know somebody is doing that action right now. They are sending something in the mail, in the email, by handwritten note, something. They're sending something. They're shipping something, maybe, yeah. But I automatically know from somebody shifting their stress that mando is a past tense. So even though they're spelled the same, the shift to that accent mark being on the ending o tells me automatically, I automatically know, oh, somebody means past. Mando, he sent or she sent something, and then it's done, and then it's over with. Okay. Now I automatically know that. Maybe you don't automatically know that. A few of you do, who've been doing some more advanced stuff. But that is an example with that one verb. They both come from the same infinitive, mandar, to send, as in electronically or physically packing up or physically stuffing in an envelope, to send something. Okay. But the accent mark on the o means, oh, I am breaking a stress rule. I've got to write that in. And that is something that tells me, oh, it's a past. It's a past tense. It's over and done with. So this is why some of these are important. When you, even as beginner people who say, I don't want to do that harder stuff yet, when you hear somebody using a word like mandó or habló, all right, or caminó, and they're punching the o at the end, it is no longer a yo verb. Because of that accent mark at the end, I know we are still talking about the action of walking, the action of speaking, the action of sending, but it means somebody did that. It means that shifting the stress to the o at the end, habló, caminó, mandó, means it is no longer a yo verb. Somebody did that in the past tense, and it's a finished action. It's over with. It isn't happening now at all. So it's important for you to know when you hear some of these verbs that you already are familiar with, and that shift at the end, that often means a past tense. It just does. Okay. There are other words. And I'll send you the whole link to this page. Let me do a quick. Yeah. There are other words just to. Nope. Bah. Here we go. Something simple. There are also short words, certain short words, and they're super short. They're one syllable words. Sometimes another job of an accent mark is to tell you, oh, I mean this definition, not that definition. There are two words that are spelled exactly alike. They're super short. Yeah, they've only got one syllable in most cases. And and one is spelled this way, gets an accent mark, and one doesn't. And that signals that, oh, I mean this definition, not that definition. Tú with an accent mark is the human being you. I'm talking to you in the buddy sense of I call you by your first name. Tú. But tú without the accent mark means, I mean your. These are signals when you're reading things and they don't sound any different. Tú and tú sound exactly the same. An accent mark does not change the pronunciation of a word. It changes which syllable we stress. Here we only got one syllable. Okay.
Mhm.
So the accent mark tells you, oh, this is actually a different word, the word you versus the word your. El and el. El con tilde with an accent mark means he. You're referring to a male person with a pronoun, el. But el without the accent mark means a masculine thing. Or it could be a masculine person, right? It's the word the. That's all it is. So te with an accent mark means tea, the thing you drink. But te without the accent mark is an object pronoun. It means you, but you receiving action, like te quiero or te hablo, I'm talking to you, right? Or te veo, I see you, okay? Or te escucho, I listen to you. Te is to you. Te is a thing that you drink with an accent mark. Yeah. So here are some of these little itty bitty hangnail, tiny words. Me and me. Me is an object pronoun. Hazlo por mí. Do it for me. Do it for my benefit. Yeah. No vayas sin mí. Don't go without me. Don't leave me behind. Me is an object pronoun. Me is what we call a prepositional pronoun, means usually it comes after a preposition, right? Mi contador habla a mí. My accountant talks to me, a mí. Me. Me is paired up with a preposition. A is a preposition. A mí. The example they give you here, hazlo por mí, do it for me, on behalf of me. It might be de mí, right? It won't be con mí because con mí is something special. It's conmigo. But most prepositions, if they have to use me, will have that me with an accent mark. But me without the accent mark is my. It tells who something belongs to. It says that something belongs to me. Esa es mi casa. It's my house. So me with no accent mark, possession is what it shows, belongs to me. C and C. C with an accent mark, yes. C without an accent mark, if. They sound exactly like one has an accent mark. De, with an accent mark means it is from dar. Dar is to give. De, with an accent mark, means it's the command. And they give you an example here. De gracias por la comida. Give thanks for the food. We're going to say a little blessing before we eat. Yeah. De. It could be oye, o oiga, mejor, oiga, listen up, person, you're getting somebody's attention. Oiga, deme un café, por favor. Get me a coffee, please. You're at a truck cart. You want to get a cup of Joe, yeah? Por favor, deme un café. Please give me a coffee, yeah? It's a command. It comes from dar. And it needs an accent mark to tell you this day is the command, give. De without an accent mark is much more common than de with an accent mark. We use de all the time. De is of or from, okay? De is used in a gazillion little ways. You saw in the reading, or no, you didn't see in the reading, but deprisa would mean in a hurry. El carro es de mi esposa. The car is my husband's. We use it again to show possession. We use it to tell what things are made out of. Mi suéter es de lana. My sweater is made out of wool. Okay. So de, of or from, and we distinguish it from de, which is from the verb dar, a command for dar, give, and se and se. Se con acento is I know. It's a verb form. It's from saber, and we get rid of the a from saber. We get rid of the b. We've got se. Yo lo sé. I know it. Okay, lo sé. But se without it is that very problematic word. It's a reflexive pronoun. It's used in lots of other ways besides being a reflexive. But, and this is one of them, se vende casa, house for sale. Se vende is used in impersonal phrases like se habla español, like se vende casa, se alquila for rent. Yeah. Se has a gazillion little uses, probably about, gazillion, not gazillion. It has probably 6 or 7 different uses, that word se. It's also a reflexive pronoun. So those are all reasons we might use accent marks. Okay. So we're getting all that out of the way. Bien. Those are 2 basic things to know about accent.
Marilyn?
Hey.
Question. So I mean, my ear isn't very good, but to hear you say the difference between them is pretty imperceptible. And I have a feeling when I say them, and it's going to be even more imperceptible. So, I mean, is it a thing of context even more so? I mean, I don't know.
No,
in
you'll
those
see.
words especially.
But it's interesting you bring that up. My husband has on occasion asked about this, and his response is, I can't hear the difference.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they're first seeing this, say, I can't hear the difference. But if I were to speak in English doing that, you would right away hear it.
Mhm.
Okay. You want to put the emphasis on the right syllable. You want to put the emphasis on the right syllable. I have an examination. I have an examination to get my degree. To get my degree. See, now if I just say in a normal voice, to get my degree. So what a hillbilly, yeah? Wouldn't that be, yeah? I want to put the right emphasis on the right syllable. What a hillbilly you'd be saying. I'm sorry, somebody's going to cancel me for saying hillbilly, but you know what I mean. Oh, that sounds uneducated. Yeah. Okay. But see, it's obvious to you because you know English, and nobody would say, I have an exam tomorrow. I have an exam tomorrow. Nobody would say that, right? I've got an exam tomorrow. And it's easier for you to hear that because that's your native tongue. Okay. And the examples you're going to hear now, we're being real emphatic, but you're right. At a normal speech rate, these like sudden punch that syllable is subtle at normal speech rate. That's an important thing, Carrie, to bring up. The normal rate of speech that an everyday person would use, it will be a subtle thing you have to listen for. So, hablo con él mañana and hablo con él mañana don't sound that different. Here's normal rate. Hablo con él mañana. Hablo con él mañana. It is pretty subtle. So you have to listen really hard. Oh, shoot. Yes, you do have to listen very hard. And when you've got a speech, a little thing to listen to, like an audio recording, you will probably have to listen more than once to hear that difference. You probably will. It's just the way it is. Okay. Okay. Before we get deep in, oh, sorry, one more thing. Okay. Una cosita más, one more little thing. We're talking about the instances when words just get an accent mark and you don't really need to know why. Here's another instance where the word will always have an accent mark and it just does. It just does. Okay. Those little words that mark one meaning or definition of a word from another. And then this other little thing, which is something which will be easy for you to understand. Interrogatives, meaning question words, the who, what, when, where, why of the Spanish language. The who, what, when, where, why. Words that lead off a question to ask for a lot of information. Those are interrogatives. They have an accent mark when they are used in a question. And if they're not used in a question, they won't. Okay, and I'll show you an example of that. But but when you hear it, you'll be, oh yeah, I get it. So these words, cuál, cuándo, cuánto, cómo, dónde, por qué, qué, quién. Those are interrogative words. When they're used in a question, they need an accent mark written out. Sometimes these words are not used in a question setting, and then they will drop the accent mark. So I don't think we've got an example down here. So bien. Okay, I'll give you an example because this is a real obvious one. Okay. You'll hear the word que a lot. Sometimes it does not carry an accent mark. Like, deme por favor, give me please, deme, give me please, yeah, deme por favor, la casa que tiene café. Give me the cup that has coffee. No quiero la taza que tiene té. I don't want the cup that has tea. Deme por favor la taza que tiene café. La taza, the cup that has coffee. Que tiene café. That instance of que, no accent mark. Yeah. All right. So, but most of the time we use these to ask a question. Therefore, these interrogative words get an accent mark when they're written out, and that's why you'll read them. So those are like the forever cases of accent marks, the instances where you need to have an accent mark, and you just don't think about it very hard. Okay. Bien. All right. So let's get into the nitty-gritty now and some practice on what happens. I had notes. ¿Dónde están? Where are they? Okay. Guy. Too many tabs. And I inadvertently got rid of my tab. So that isn't good. Bien. Okay. Aquí está. Here it is. All righty. So this is going to go over what you saw in the video with the nice lady who talked about accent marks, the longer video. Okay. Do I need an accent mark, and how do I know? And okay, so one thing to know first really is that accent marks only happen on top of a vowel. In some languages that is not the case. Some languages, like in Slavic or other languages, might have accent marks on consonants, but not in Spanish. Spanish only gets an accent mark on a vowel. So, and in addition, an accent mark does not change the pronunciation of the vowel. Okay, like in French, there are two different kinds of accent marks. And so, for example, in French, an accent mark on a vowel changes the way you pronounce that vowel, you know, an eh sound versus an e sound, or an a sound versus an ah sound. It does not do that in Spanish. So it does not change the sound of a, vowel a, o, vowel o, e, vowel e, vowel e, o, vowel u. It will not change the sound of the vowel, just more punch on that syllable. Okay. So what do I need to know? Accent marks depend on two things: the rules governing which syllable in a word gets more stress with your voice. So I should amend that. The rules that govern normally which syllable reasonably should get that. Yeah. And two, knowing how a word is pronounced. If its pronunciation follows the rules, if the pronunciation, the way you say a word, follows the number one thing, follows the normal everyday rule, then you don't need an accent mark. Yeah. If the pronunciation breaks one of the standard rules of stress, then we have to write that accent mark over the vowel where you hear the greater stress, so that when you read it, you say, oh, I normally would do this, but no, I'm going to punch this other syllable instead. Okay, that's why we have an accent mark in most cases. And the normal rules, so the number one part, guys, the number one thing, the rules governing which syllables get more stress, those normal rules look at the last letter of the word. And you're right. You might be saying, I'm not thinking about the last letter of the word, but the more you hear things or read things, you will get it. And this is one of those things, if you read a little more, you'll start to get this a little bit faster, actually, if you read more, because you'll start to see it in writing. So, okay, words that end in a vowel, A, E, I, O, U, and the consonants N and S, normally you stress the second to last syllable. That's the rule. When the last letter of a word is a vowel or N or S, we normally stress not the last syllable, but the second to last. The second to last. That's the normal pattern. So let's look at all these examples. Palabra ends in an A. And here are how we break up the syllables. Palabra. Those are the syllables. Okay. You probably forgot, how do I break up syllables in English? It doesn't matter. They're different in Spanish. Palabra. Those are your syllables. And the second to last is the la, palabra. The way we say that obeys the rule, palabra. We don't need an accent mark because it obeys the rule, okay? Estudio, okay? One thing to know is estudio. D-I-O, the I-O hangs together. That's a diphthong, right? Estudio, estudio. Oh, second to last is the tu part. Estudio, estudio. Okay. Entre ends in a vowel. Tre is the tail end. Oh, we stress, we punch the second to last. Entre.
Entre.
Entre. Yeah. You see that word? It's entre. Second to last is en. Entre. By the way, there is a word entre. There is a word entre with a punch at the end. It does not mean entre.
It's not entree.
Yeah. Entre means I went into. It comes from entrar, the verb entrar. Entre, if I punch the back end of it, entre, I automatically know, oh, verb, I did it. I did it is the punch at the end. Entre. Entré, por ejemplo, entré en el ayuntamiento. I went into the town hall. I had some business to do. Entré en la oficina de mi contador. I went to my accountant's office. Oh, because I had to do my taxes. Entré en la oficina. Some people say that as entré a la oficina. It doesn't matter that much, okay? Entré en la oficina, bien? But entré is a totally different word, and that would need an accent mark. But entre means in between. Between. Okay, so un ejemplo. El árbol está entre mi casa y la casa de mi vecino. The tree is between my house and my neighbor's house. Okay. Bien. El banco, the bench. Banco can mean a bank too, but el banco está entre las dos tiendas. The bench is between the two stores. You can sit down there. Está entre las dos tiendas. Entre means between, okay? Okay, let's look at our next word. Cocinan. Cocinan is a verb. And by the way, this goes for verbs, nouns. I don't care what category of word it is. It doesn't matter what kind of word it is, a verb or a noun or an adjective, doesn't matter. This accent thing just applies to all words. Cocinan ends in an N. Oh, vowel or N or S. Ooh, an N at the end, we punch the second to last. The way we pronounce that conjugation is cocinan. 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 Yeah, we punch. Oh, it obeys the rule. I don't need an accent mark. Now we got another verb, but this one ends in S. Vowels or N or S. Escribes. If you break that up into syllables, it's escribes. Escribes. We don't punch the bes. Escribes. No. Escribes. Second to last. Escribes. The way we say that obeys the stress rule. We need no accent mark. Escribes. Okay. Let's look at a word that talks about a young person. Joven. Joven ends in an N. Words that end in a vowel or N or S. This happens to end in N. Joven. 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 Two syllables. Second to last is a jo. So it's joven. Joven. Okay. Entiendes. Entiendes. You understand. Okay. Entien. The IE is a diphthong. Those two hang together like spit. Okay. Entiendes. Entiendes. Des is the end. We can't punch the end because it ends in an S. We punch the second to last. So it's tien. Entiendes. Entiendes.
Entiendes.
Okay. Entiendes. So all those words and all those examples, they obey the rule. The way we say it, it's hand in hand along with the regular rules of stress. So we don't need an accent mark. I'm going to take this word joven and show you why that matters now. We're going to take out that word joven. And I'm going to put it in a different screen. And we're going to see why the accent mark then matters. I'll actually show you two words where that matters, because you're going to say, oh, I know that word. Therefore, it's going to make sense. Get my Spanish keyboard up. Okay, let's take joven. Joven ends in an N. We stress the second to last. Joven. Yep, obeys the rule. I don't need an accent mark. Now look what happens when I make it plural. When I make it plural, it ends with an S. If a word ends in a vowel or N or S, now I need to look, oh, second to last syllable. Joven es. Do I say that word jóvenes? Jóvenes. Do I say jóvenes? to say young people. And this is a word that, oh, you know what? If somebody is like doing a tour with a bunch of teenagers or 20 somethings, I'll say, jóvenes. Hey, folks. Hey, kids. Jóvenes. Because he doesn't want to call them chicos because, you know, they're not little kids. So, jóvenes. Jóvenes. Is it jóvenes or jóvenes?
Jóvenes.
Jóvenes.
Jóvenes. But now, because I have to pronounce this, because the root word is joven. Yeah, yeah. Now, when I pronounce this, I've added on another syllable by making it plural. Okay, see what's happening? And if I were to go by the rules, the second to the last syllable gets the stress, but I don't say this word jóvenes. I'm altering the way I'm altering this word. If I do this, then no, nobody says jóvenes. They say jóvenes. So now when I make this plural, even though singular has no accent mark, well, that's because it obeys the rules. But now when I make it plural, I got to add the accent mark in.
Oh.
Jóvenes. Jóvenes. Now, not all plurals act that way. This one happens to, because it's a word, it ends in an N, vowels or N or S. That's the way it goes. Let's take a word and let's take a look at another word. You're going to absolutely know this right away. Examen. Examen. It's a test or an exam. Same thing, right? Examen. Ooh, words that end in a vowel or N or S, we normally stress the second to last syllable. And okay, here's the second to last syllable. If I break it up into the syllables, examen. Oh, no, sorry. Actually, the way I break that up is not that way. Examen. 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 And the way I pronounce that obeys the rule. Examen. Great. Examen. Second to last. That's what gets the punch. But when I make this word plural, ominous. Now I got to write in an accent mark. Okay. And you know what? You don't think twice. Examen, but more than one test is exámenes. 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 Now look what happens. Words end in a vowel or N or S. Second to last syllable. We don't want to punch that. That'll sound hillbilly. Exámenes. Exámenes. You know what? You know when I say exámenes, like what? Exámenes. Nobody says exámenes. If I didn't write in an accent mark, it would have to be pronounced exámenes. It's not pronounced that way. It's exámenes. The way we pronounce the word breaks the rule. I got to write it in so people know when they read it out, oh, I punch that instead. And if right now you say to yourself, hey, I'm not thinking about if the word ends in a vowel or N or S. Well, but they are. Yeah, you're not, because you're thinking in English. Well, that's normal. I'm not blaming you, but of course you're not. But they do. So that's what happens. Yeah. Okay. Right. If you just see this word in isolation, it's entre. It's entre. And somebody automatically reads that word and they are thinking this idea. Entre. But if they read this, they're going to read it in entre. Entre. Entre means I went in. I entered. So that, yeah, that accent mark matters. Okay. Camino. Camino. Ends in an O. Here's the second to last syllable. Camino. Camino. Oh, yeah. It obeys the, yeah. It obeys it. Yeah. No accent mark needed, but camino. Camino needs an accent mark. He walked. Yeah. So, okay. Bien. There we go. There's a little example there. Okay. Last letter dictates what the normal pattern should be. If the way we say the word breaks that normal pattern, we need to write in an accent mark. Okay. There's a second rule. Here's rule number 2. Words that, what about words that don't end in a vowel or N or S? Okay. So if a word ends in any other consonant, not the N or S, but any other consonant, the normal stress for a normal word is going to be punch the last syllable harder. So here are words that obey that rule. Normal. Okay. In English, we say normal. Oh, yeah. En español, normal. Normal. You would not say it if you heard me saying, él es un chico muy normal. Él es un chico muy normal. ¿Sí? Okay. Normal. Okay. We punch the end and it obeys the rule. No accent mark. Caminar. Caminar. R is a consonant. It's not N. It's not S. So, we punch the end. Caminar. Most,
Okay.
no, 99% of all the infinitives have no accent mark. Yeah, most infinitives have no accent mark. And we always know we punch the ending of it, of an infinitive. We always just do. Yeah. There are a few oddball verbs that get an accent mark, and that's because we have to split up 2 vowels that are walking together. Don't worry about it too much, but like 90% of the infinitives you will see, 99 of the infinitives you see will have no accent mark. We always punch the end. Caminar, beber, comer. Okay. Beber, there we go. Beber, here's an ER example. Feliz, happy, feliz. We punch the end. Libertad, freedom. We punch the end. Libertad, it's a D at the end. Yeah. Caray. Caray is an exclamation.
Question.
Caray, kind of like, oh, hell. Oh, shoot.
Do you have a, oh, sorry, do you have a visual for that?
Oh, perdón, Guy.
I was just wondering because you were looking at something.
I am looking at something. Gracias, Barbara. Thank you.
Oh,
I have to be reminded.
Thank you.
I have to be reminded. Shoot, I'm sorry. Lo siento. And you'll get this here.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me. Gracias. Gracias por decirme. Thank you for telling me. Okay, look, yeah. Words that end in any other consonant, not an N, not an S. Normal stress is on the last syllable more than any other syllable, right? Normal, caminar, beber, feliz, libertad, caray. Okay. Here is a little mnemonic device, a thing to help you remember. Some people call this number 1 and number 2, and I'll send you the whole file so you don't have to furiously copy this down. No. Some people call this the nose rule. The rule is last letter, an N, an S, or a vowel. The nose rule. It means you stress the second to last syllable. Okay. So number 1 is called the nose rule. Yeah. If the last letter of the word is any other consonant besides N, besides S, we punch the ending there. Okay. So that number 2 rule that you see on the screen, gracias, Barbara, that rule is the normal rule. If the way we pronounce a word breaks that rule, then we have to write in an accent mark to show where we do put the stress instead. Where do I put it instead? That's what happens. Okay, so here is our example. If the way we pronounce a word breaks these rules, the number 1 and the number 2 rules, there are only 2 rules. If the way we pronounce it breaks these rules, it needs an accent mark to show which syllable is stressed harder. Okay, so we give you the example of joven to jóvenes. Okay, when we make it plural, this doesn't mean every time you make a word plural, just in that particular word, right? It needs to retain the stress on that first J-O, like the singular form. So we add the plural ES and it would shift the stress to the VEN. We don't want to do that. We're changing the basic sound of the word. We don't want to do that. So we need an accent mark to keep it as jóvenes. Same thing with exámenes. Same thing. Okay. Canto, canto. The first is I sing. I'm doing it right now. The second one is he or she sang, the past. Okay. To convey that idea, we punch the O at the end and we punch that harder. It's a different word altogether. It's a different meaning for that word. So the accent mark serves to say, hey, I know you think you should be doing the canto, but we're punching this instead. So to signal that, I have to write an accent mark. Okay. And here I give you your exceptions to the rule, the little shorty words. And okay, here we go. And again, I'm going to send you this whole file so you'll see it. These words need accent marks because the stressed syllable for proper pronunciation breaks the normal rules. So here are words that end in a vowel or N or S, but we don't punch the syllable you normally would. So menu. The way we pronounce menu punches the U at the end, menu. And you're right. If somebody's talking at a normal pace, dame por favor un menu, right? They're not going to say menu and drag out the U for you like that, but it'll, yeah, dame un menu, por favor. Dame un menu. They won't say dame un menu, dame un menu. No, dame un menu. Menu. Okay, we have to punch that U at the end. We need an accent. Simpático. Simpático is a super long word. Simpático. 4 syllables. But it's not pronounced simpático. Simpático. It's pronounced simpático. Simpático. So we need to put the tilde over the pa syllable. Simpático. Okay. Here's the word inglés. English. Inglés. Inglés. English. It ends in an S, but we're not punching the I. By the way, there is a word English. It means groin. With no accent mark, it means groin.
Okay.
There's a like, yeah, hablo inglés. I speak groin. Probably you don't mean that. Yeah, I don't speak groin. Hablo inglés. Hablo inglés. Inglés. Yeah, inglés. Okay. Inglés gets an accent mark on the ending because that's not the last syllable. It's different, right? Avión. Avión. The accent mark happens because we're splitting up the I and the O. O. We want more punch on the O. And therefore, it's got to split that up. Avión, right? We're not saying avión, avión. It's avión, airplane, avión, right? Somebody says, hey, move it, move it, move it, move it, move it. Ándale, ándale. It's not andale, andale. It's ándale, ándale, right? Vámonos, let's go. Vámonos means let's get out of here. Let's put this pop stand. Vámonos. Vámonos needs a punch on the A. Vámonos. Lápices. This is another one of those plural words like the jóvenes. Yeah. Lápiz. Lápiz is one of the lápiz. Yeah. And we need to punch the A. And ends in an S. Lápices. 3 syllables. We don't want it to sound like lápices. Lápices. No, it's lápices. Lápices. We need the accent mark in. Okay. Now, here's another this, by the way, is helpful. Any word ending in "yon," that combination always gets an accent on that O. I mean, they just are. It's like the shun word, yeah? Words that end in shun in English. So you kind of don't have to think too much about that. Okay. Let's take a look at some things that break the number 2 rule. The number 2 rule is they break the rule of ends in a consonant, but not an N or not an S. And so here are some words that don't obey that rule, and therefore they need an accent mark. Fácil. Fácil. It's not fácil. And this one is kind of telling. Ooh, we've got an English word, facility. Facility. And we do punch in English the sil. Facility. We don't say facility. Yeah, facility. But in Spanish, it's not that way. It's fácil, fácil, easy, fácil. It's difícil. It's not difícil. The way it's pronounced is difícil, difícil. We need a fi accent mark, fi accent mark, okay? Útil, useful, útil, useful. It's not útil, it's útil. We have an insult word, imbécil. Yeah. Yes, it means imbecile. Okay. Imbécil. You wouldn't use this in polite company if you had some really annoying teenagers, purse snatching. Yeah. People mugging people. Imbéciles. Yeah. Okay. Then it's appropriate to use that word. Imbécil. Okay. Lápiz needs that accent mark. Lápiz, pencil. And here's a surname that needs an accent mark. González. It's not González, it's González. González. Okay. So you got to know how the word is said, how it's pronounced, and you got to know if it breaks the nose rule. Okay. Or if it breaks that other rule. Bien. Okay. And I think, this has the link to the video you've already watched.
Mm-hmm.
So I will just send that whole package there. Okay. Bien. Next week, what I want to do with you is I'm going to have a bunch of words and we'll talk about, we'll pronounce them. So next week, we're going to put this into play. I'll have some bigger lists of words. And these are going to be words you kind of hear a lot. And we're going to see, does that need an accent mark or does it not need an accent mark from what you hear me say and from knowing those 2 rules? Does that make sense? See?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay. And remember, these are going to be any old words. Some of them are going to be verbs. Some of them are going to be names of things. Some of them are going to be descriptive words. Some of them are going to be like the funky little preposition, adjective, anything in those categories, because it doesn't matter what kind of word it is. Just the spelling of the word and the way we pronounce it. That's what matters. Okay. So we'll do that next week and see off the cuff what you can do. Okay. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any little question about that? Sí o no?
No.
No? Okay. Bien. So we'll kind of try that out next week. And if that's okay, we're going to move on to por empara. Yeah, see? Bien. Por empara. Okay. Está bien. Por empara. Now, it's actually, in a way, a mistake. Okay, no, let me back up. Por empara, people love to think of as 4. There are 2 words that mean 4 in Spanish, but that's only kind of sort of true. It's not strictly speaking true. So how do you think about this? We have to think about it in a different way. They don't mean just for. Okay. We have to think of these words as they convey specific, very abstract ideas. Both of these terms, por and para, came from Latin way back, and they had two specific purposes in Latin. And this kind of carried over into Spanish. That's the best I can give you. Yeah. Okay. And para, think of para. When we think about, do I use para or por, which is a normal thing for English speakers to pause and say, oh, this is not a natural thing for me, that word to just pop out for me. Here's why. It's because they indicate a big abstract idea. Para often indicates a destination or a goal, an end point that you want to get to. Okay. It points to what happens next. Para points to the future. Para points to something that hasn't happened yet. Ooh, that's kind of an important thing to know. Okay. So if I say, oh, esta tarjeta es para ti. This card is for you. Es para ti. If I'm giving it to you, do you have it yet? But who's it going to end up with? Para tells you destination. Yeah? Bien. Okay. Por ejemplo, este tubo de crema es para ti. This lotion is for you. Who's got it now? Who's going to get it? Para talks about the future. If I talk about, oh, let me grab a terrible. If I talk about my insurance bill, my insurance bill, and I look at my insurance bill, ooh, la factura, the bill, State Farm. La factura es para el 23 de febrero. Uy, la factura es para el 23 de febrero. The bill is for February 23rd. No, it doesn't really mean that. It means it's due. Para with a date means a deadline. Para looks to the future. A destination point, a place you want to wind. I want to wind up there. Para, when it talks about time, talks about a deadline. La factura es para el 23. The bill is for the 23rd, means it's due at that time. Okay, so para can talk about time, which means future. It can talk about a person. Oh, it can talk about a recipient. Somebody's going to get something. That thing will wind up in their hot little hands. It's the future. Okay, bien? All right. Para can also be interpreted as in order to do something, which is still the future. See? In a way, but a more general way. El libro es para aprender. The book is for learning. El libro es para aprender español. Its goal. Oh, but it's still a goal. It's still a destination. It's a goal. Es para aprender. So when I use para with an infinitive, it means in order to do something. Okay. The information after para flows after the activity in the previous part of the sentence. So, yeah. That's what para does. Okay. So, por ejemplo, for example, and I don't use para ejemplo, por ejemplo. Por ejemplo, we use the other word por, see? El regalo, there's the first part. El regalo que compré, the gift that I bought. One leads into two. One has a destination of number two. El regalo que compré, the gift that I bought, es para mis hijos. It's for my kids. The number one part is going to wind up with the number two part. That's why we use para. Practico mi español. I practice my Spanish. Para hablar mejor, in order to speak better. The goal of, in order to speak better, follows from that first idea. It flows out of that first idea. Practico mi español para hablar mejor. Yeah? Para flows into, winds up with the endpoint of the number two thing. Hago la tarea para miércoles. I'm doing the homework for Wednesday, meaning my deadline is my drop dead date, right? I got to have it done by that day. Okay. So the doing the activity in number one part leads into this deadline para miércoles. Bien, sí. El avión sale. The plane is leaving. Oh, where's it going to land? Para Los Angeles. Para here is kind of a substitute for the word a. I could say and have the same meaning. El avión sale a Los Angeles. It means the same thing. But often people use para to say, oh, here's where it's going to wind up. El avión sale para Los Angeles. The plane's leaving for Los Angeles. We might say leaving for Los Angeles, leaving to go to Los Angeles. Okay, but where is it going to wind up? Los Angeles. Bien? We need para because it tells us the end point, okay? So the end point might be a physical place. The end point might be a due date. The end might be a goal of something I want to be able to do, okay? The end point might be a person or a group of people. They're going to get something. They're going to have something in their hot little hands, okay? Here's another example of location idea with para. Vamos para el parque. We're going off to the park. Where are we going to end up? In the park. We're not going to go through the park. We're going to set our keisters down in the park, okay? Vamos para el parque. We want to wind up parque, right? You could just as easily say vamos al parque. They are synonyms. Bien? Okay. Okay, so here are the rules. The big umbrella is para indicates destination, future. We want to get there. Yeah, but here are the rules. And some people like to have the rules, and I know you want those rules. So if you want the rules, these are a bunch of them. Para, if something is intended for a recipient, we use para. So, an example, un ejemplo. Por ejemplo, las galletas son para mis hijos. Okay. The cookies are for my kids. They're the recipients of the cookies. If you mean in order to plus an infinitive, we use para. And for some of you, it may be easier just to memorize. Yep, you know what? In order to use this device, I have to read the instructions. In order to drive, I've got to take lessons. In order to drive, I need my keys. Yeah. In order to, para plus infinitive. Miramos el cielo esta noche para ver las estrellas. We're looking at the sky tonight in order to see the stars. In order to, you might say in English, just to see the stars. You might, or you might say in order to. Okay, but para plus infinitive, para ver, okay? To give a deadline, we use para. El abogado necesita los documentos para lunes. The lawyer needs the documents by Monday. You can get them to on Friday or Saturday or Sunday, but drop dead date is Monday, para lunes. That's the due date, okay? Indicating a destination or a specific end directions. Salimos para Lima. We're leaving for Lima. We want to end up in Lima when we're done traveling, right? It's a synonym for a, okay? To. Okay, indicating a purpose. Un reloj sirve para saber la hora. A clock serves to know the time. A clock is for knowing the time, or a watch is for knowing the time. That's what that sentence means. Yeah, it's the purpose of a watch, what it does. Este dinero extra es para emergencias. This extra money is for emergencies, meaning just in case down the road, you're in a tight spot. Yeah. Es de dinero extra. This extra money es para emergencias. It's just in case you wind up with trouble. Okay. Bien. And we use para to make examples. Para adolescente, Toño es muy responsable. Wow, for a teenager, Tony is very responsible. Considering that he's just a pimply-faced kid, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. Para adolescente. You also use comparisons, and people, we don't think of these as comparisons, but they are. Para mí es demasiado cafeína. For me, that's too much caffeine. Yeah. But para mí is a frequent thing with this para. Okay? Bien? Let's look at por. We want to look at the big blanket rule. And por actually is a bigger umbrella. As a matter of fact, I would say with the word por, it's more like we're casting a net. We're casting it. You know, those videos you see of people throwing a wide net and they catch fish with a net. That's like por. Por has a very general feel. It can mean around here or alongside or through, coming through. It does not have that end point meaning you have with para. Por is very flaky. Por is all over. It's scattershot. It's scattered. It's scattered. Okay. Okay. Por might connect two things, but they're going on at the same time. They're not like one is not necessarily a result of the other. With para, the end is the result of the first part of the sentence. That's not really the case with por. Okay. Por has a lot of uses. Okay. But here's one of the most important ones. Por means in exchange for, in exchange for. So this is an important one to use. And it's in exchange for money or in exchange for things, we always use por. In exchange for. So when you're handing over money, not the money is for my kids, the money is for buying this thing. In exchange for. Le di al barista $6 por mi taza de café. I gave the barista $6 for my cup of coffee. I want that coffee. Hey, trade you $6 for the cup of coffee. Por is an exchange. Okay. Sometimes the exchange is not monetary. Here's an example that you should just memorize. It's always gracias por, thanks for. Because you're giving the word thanks. You're giving your heartfelt feelings of thanks in exchange for that thing. Gracias por su paciencia. Thanks for your patience. Even though it's not a monetary exchange, it's a heartfelt exchange of feelings. Gracias por, gracias por, gracias por. Boom, just ingrain that in your brain. Gracias por, thanks for. Gracias por tu ayuda. Thanks for your help. Okay. Okay. Also, por indicates a general location or a general direction as opposed to an end point. Caminamos por la ciudad can mean we're walking through the city. Well, it will mean we're walking through. Por can mean through. Mi bolsa debe estar por aquí. Wow, my purse, it must be around here somewhere. Los chicos corrieron por la playa. The kids ran along the beach, right? They weren't coming from outside to the beach. They ran along the beach. Por with a time is not a deadline. It's at a certain time. Veo la tele por la noche. I watch TV at night. Por la noche, por la mañana, por la tarde, at a certain period of time. Por with a time is at a certain time. Para with a time period is deadline, due date. Okay. Por with time is either duration or at a period of time. Por also indicates by means of. Nos conectamos por internet. We'll connect on the internet. We're not going to call each other on the phone. We won't get together in person. We're going to get together by internet. By means of is a definition or a use of por. Viajamos por tren. We're traveling by means of the train, right? We're not going in a plane. We're not going in a bus. We're going on the train. By means of. Por can mean by means of. And here's the one that is hard. This one is hard, guys. If you can't really fathom this yet, don't sweat it. This is last on this list because it's not as critical as the others. Okay? It expresses cause, on behalf of, or because of. Voté por el mejor candidato. I voted in favor of, or in favor of. Votar is always used with por. You vote on behalf of somebody. Yeah. Voté por el mejor candidato. I know in English we say we voted for the best candidate. El papá trabajó horas extras por su familia. The dad worked extra time, extra hours, overtime, literally because of his family, meaning on account of he's got to do that for his family. Yeah. because of his family. He's thinking only of his family because of. Okay. Bien. And I don't want to go too far over. So what I'm going to show you is you're going to get a very good video. There are a lot of videos on por and para. This one is quite good because she tells you some things that are again these big umbrella ideas and examples in context of por and para. And it will become less of a mystery. Yeah. As you hear more examples. So I will send you those notes, and it's got other stuff we haven't covered yet, and definitely watch the video, and you'll have like just, a listening video. I'm going to look too for a little reading thing, and I want you to notice in the reading, like look out for accent mark words because they will just happen, and think about, what does that word have an accent mark? Or better yet, even why does that word have an accent mark? How do I pronounce that word? Which syllable gets more? Because that's really the critical thing for you to know with the accent mark. Oh, the accent mark means I got to punch this syllable and give it more emphasis so I don't sound like a hillbilly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like an uneducated person. Okay. Mejor, better. Okay. So we're going to come back next week. We'll take a look at some examples. I will pronounce things and you're going to tell me, ooh, that needs an accent mark, or no, that doesn't. And we're going to take a look at more stuff with por and para. Okay. Bien. ¿Todo bien?
Gracias.
Excelente. Excelente. Bueno. Gracias por su paciencia. Thank you for your patience. Yeah. And next week we'll get more answers. Now that we got kind of our feet wet with these two topics, we'll solicit more ideas from you on that next week. ¿Está bien?
Está bien.
Excelente. Me gusta mucho.